Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Three Men Talking Fantasy Football, and in this case, two men. We are coming back to you after a little bit of a hiatus in the off season, talking to you some fantasy football, some news, some early ADP stuff. I am here with Mr. Tom Lang and Mr. Billy DeCousas. How you doing, Mr. Lang?
I am doing fantastic. How you doing?
I am all right.
Yeah.
I
We do apologize for the 1 week delay. There's been a lot of talks, and we're trying to restructure a little bit to make sure that for next year we are ready to rock and help you guys win some fantasy football leagues. So let's
that's
get to it.
that's true. We're restructuring some contracts, and we're
Yeah.
trying to sign some free agents. So we're gone for 2 weeks. So we've got a lot to cover. So let's talk about some recent news that we haven't talked about. So I know the 2 weeks ago we had a bit of a free agent frenzy because there was just so many things to cover. So it's
Yeah, that was wild.
and we covered just about everything up to that point. Last 2 weeks a little bit quieter, but there's definitely a few points to cover. So let's jump right in. Oh, and we'll mention. So we are going to be covering finally early ADP top 12 wide receivers pre NFL drafts. We'll get to that later. But first, let's get into some of the latest news. So I don't want to bury any of the lead here. I don't want to save this. I want to talk about the New York Giants
Yeah.
right here. So in the last within the last I don't know how many days now, whatever, two quarterbacks now have found their way to the New York Giants.
Three
Uh,
actually. Three.
three. Oh,
Yeah.
who's the third?
Well, Tommy Cutlett signed his deal.
Oh, all right. We talked about that 2 weeks ago. So the two that made their way is Jameis Winston himself and of course Russell Wilson. Let me let the Giants fan here talk about this for a
You
minute. Go
know,
ahead.
I was extremely excited actually when Winston was signed, and it was for not a lot of money. It was for, what was it, 2 year, $8 million. So
That's
like,
right.
yeah, so like he signed a really nice deal for being a quarterback, and at that point in time being this pretty much the starting quarterback for the New York Giants. And then last night, I think it was last night, right? Yeah, last night, I get a notification on my sleeper app, hashtag sleeper, get a notification on my sleeper app. Russell Wilson, Super Bowl winning Russell Wilson, signs a 1 year deal up to what, $21 million or something like that with the New York Giants. And I'm like, what the hell is happening? Like, what
First of
is
all,
going on?
First of all, before we say anything else, it's got to be his agent paying Sleeper to be like Super Bowl winning quarterback Russell
Yeah.
Wilson.
It should have been quoted. I see ghosts in Denver slash almost doing well throughout the rest of the remaining part of the season on the Steelers to I've always wanted to be a Giant. Russell Wilson
Right.
signs with the New York
The
Giants.
Giants Nation. Let's ride. Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, like I said, I was excited with Jameis. I actually I know we talked about this when the trade element was happening with Russell Wilson back then in Seattle, and I was really hoping that that was happening. He was going to go to the Giants. Luckily it didn't, because that would have been worse than Daniel Jones right at that point in time. But I don't know. I'm a little I'm intrigued. I'm
I think
not super excited. I don't want to talk about the Giants all day long here, but I'm not super excited. But I did see really nice quarterback play from him last year on the Steelers. It would think it was a little bit more controlled in that environment. I also think that
I
this
think I
is kind
might
of like the
surprise you with what I have to say too, but
this
let
is
me
the
let you go.
quarterback that I think at this point this is going to be the quarterback that pretty much saves Brian Daboll's career with the New York Giants potentially. Um, you can't.
I don't think he's a bad
I
coach.
I don't think he's a bad coach either. I will say this though, and so Russell's close to the end of his career, or close. He's not there yet, but he's gonna be there soon. Jameis is Jameis. You don't know what Jameis you're gonna get. It's like a box of chocolates. Um, but the key component that I really wanted the Giants to do this year was by drafting a quarterback. And the more that they've invested into quarterbacks this offseason in free agency, I don't think we're going that route. And I think that they're going to be going towards like a Travis Hunter-esque kind of player, which can be really good. My thing about it is if all of this happens, and I think Russell will be the starting quarterback, and depending on what the situation is, you might see Winston here and there. Who knows? Or Winston finds his way to another team because Russ is doing well. Um, I think they're playing for next year or the following year of drafting a quarterback at this point. They're the whole Arch Manning hype down the road is potentially happening. I think Arch Manning needs at least one full year as a starter. Um,
But
but
that's never going to happen. Like to your point, if this is saving Dayball's career, then
I
this
don't
means
know.
they're gonna win X amount of games,
That's why I'm
putting them
saying
at a
that's why I'm
draft pick
not
where they're
that's
not going to
why
be able to
I
get
know
Archie Manning.
that's why I'm not like 100% gung ho on this. I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Yeah, I mean,
Well,
not I mean the way that they presented Super Bowl winning Russell Wilson signs with the New York Giants. I mean, yeah, it means absolutely nothing. They should have been two-time Super Bowl winning, but I mean that's a different story for another day.
well, I think let, let me say a few things about if your goal as a Giants fan was to end up with Archie Manning next year, then you should be unhappy about this. But if your goal was to make your team as good as it can be, I think this was a good move. I think Russ gets a bit of a bad rap at this point. Some of it some of it justified. But like his performance wasn't
Unlimited.
bad. It just felt like a plotting kind of offense. Um, I mean, the Giants, believe it or not, like with Malik Neighbors and a decent defense, and maybe they're gonna do some stuff with weapons or whatever. I feel like it could be pretty good.
Yeah, I
In
mean,
it,
the Giants did pay Slayton basically $1 million less than they could have paid
yeah, well,
Saquon Barkley, but hey, it's they have
times
some nice
change,
weapons
right?
around there.
Right, and they're in a tough division. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. I kind of had the same reaction as you. Like I thought James, for what they wanted, I thought Jameis was the perfect thing. Well, they might not win a lot of games, but it's going to be exciting and they'll be great for fantasy value. That's what I thought was going to happen, and then they could, drop their way into Archie Manning or something for next year. But
Yeah.
now they got Russ, and it's going to be a bit more sustained. I'm excited about this for Malik Neighbors. In general, I'm excited about this for Tyrone Tracy, unless they end up drafting a back or something. Um, and to your point, they might not even see Jameis unless Russ gets injured. I mean, Russ is the quarterback there. That's
Hey,
it.
maybe they draft they skip over Travis Hunter and they draft Genti.
Well, maybe, but I can't
I
at
didn't
this
say it
point
now.
now. They should go lineman defense. At that point. But
Yeah.
well, we don't have to talk about the Giants all day long. I know
No,
that
no,
you don't want
let's
to talk
skip.
about. Let's
Let's skip on this.
let's talk about a couple of the ones. So Cooper Cup ended up going to the Seattle Seahawks.
That was very interesting. I think that was a horrible move on his part, to be honest.
So he returns back. Well, he has familiarity with Washington and he played there, so he's returning back to that state. I think for him, maybe that might not have been the best landing spot, but it's probably the best thing Seattle could have did for Sam Darnold. I still think Cooper Cup has at least one more year left in the tank here, especially if he stays healthy.
I said
Could
it a
be
couple times throughout the season when they were trying to trade him or they were potentially going to release him, whatever the situation is. He really should have went to Green Bay. Green Bay was the primary spot for that. I mean, Green Bay signed their, number one wide receiver in Mecole Hardman basically right there. So they just added another role player to their roster. Um, they,
not want to
the best
mention
case
that. You found a
scenario,
way to
best
sneak that in.
literally. But the best place that he should have went, honestly, just based on format, structure, all that should have been the Packers. But hey, he goes to Seattle. You think it's good? I think it's going to be a complete mess.
I think Seattle's going to be awful, but I think that
You thought that Cooper Cup was a problem last year? He like stay away. Stay away from him.
well, it's not like he was bad. He was really great and then just completely disappeared.
What I'm saying is, you
You
thought
know.
Cooper Cup was bad last year based on, where you drafted him to his
Well,
performance ending. Like, no. Like he's going to get drafted probably four, five, the fourth or fifth round around that target right there, and he's going to be basically finishing as a wide receiver three, wide receiver four. It's not even going to be worth it. He's going to be a plug and play week in, week out. It's not going to be worth it. It's going to be scary. Don't be the guy to draft him. Don't, if you get him in the 10th round, yeah, take him. But I don't know. It's a bad scenario, bad situation for him over there.
I mean, well, I mean, it remains to be seen, but like, I mean, the news is fairly recent, but right, I mean, we'll get to it when we get to it. But his ADP now on Underdog is a 40, wide receiver 44. So I mean, it's like it's not
Well, that's
much of an investment.
a
I
wide
the,
receiver 44. That's worse than what I actually just said. So,
well, the right. I mean, I mean, we'll see how ADP holds up, but
yeah,
he's not going to be an afterthought. That's my point. He's going to be
yeah,
a relevant part of the offense. And by the way, for everybody, like I kind of bring it up as a cautionary tale to like talk about JSN. Everybody's shooting JSN to the moon at this point, and like maybe temper some of those expectations. Darnold to some degree pumpkined at the end of last year. Maybe some of my feelings about Darnold ended up being correct. We'll see. I mean, I still think Seattle's going to fail, but it doesn't mean that they're not going to have any fantasy value. So
yeah. I mean, before we get into the big name, another homecoming opportunity is Brandon Cooks finds his way back home to New Orleans.
very good.
Um, Brandon Cooks, who was drafted by New Orleans 18 years ago, finds his way back, and maybe he brings back Drew Brees. Who knows?
Oh my God. 18 years ago. All right, let's mention two other quick points of news here. So, Stephon Diggs had this was another one I think happened yesterday. Stephon
Yep.
Diggs has signed with the New England Patriots. Now, I think you and I might have a major disagreement here. I actually think this is extremely relevant, and I think that's about the best thing that's about the best fit that you could have hoped for. This is he's not what he was. He is a good route runner. He is a possession wide receiver. He catches what's thrown to him. And that's exactly what Drake May needed. There's no superstar wide receivers on that team. For anybody who doesn't remember, Stephon Diggs was extremely relevant for the first, whatever it was, 6, 7 games
Yeah.
before he got injured with a bad Houston offense. Him and Nico Collins was the entire offense. Now he gets a chance to be the primary receiver in it can't be a worse offense. With presumably they're on the uptick, new coaches, new making moves. Josh McDaniels now is an offensive coordinator. I'm I could be depending on what his ADP is. I might be all in on Stephon Diggs as the you know wide receiver two, flexish or whatever.
Yeah, draft him.
I mean, do you disagree with that? Like, why do you disagree with that?
I just think it's bad, bad, bad. What he did was he took the money. He took the money. He wasn't getting offers anywhere else. He took the money, and now it's the end of the term. It's
He took
end
the
of his
money and that's
career.
it.
It's gone. It's done. He'll have a couple flashes here and there. He's not a wide receiver two. He's not even going to have wide receiver one finishes. He might have one potentially week one, and then he starts mad. This is the problem with him. He talks too much in the huddle. What's going to happen is Stevenson is going to get the ball. He's going to carry the ball. And I think because of Drake May, it's going to be leaning more of a 60-40 run offense, especially with Mike Variable over there. I understand that the element of the offensive coordinator over there with McDaniel is he's an offensive minded throwing grinder kind of guy. I think they're still going to go 60-40 based on being a younger quarterback. It's good to have a Diggs there, but I just don't think he's going to benefit from it. He's going to get all pissed off, he's going to go all DK Metcalf and he's going to find his way on a different team.
You're telling me you wouldn't take a shot on him. He's going as the wide receiver 55, round 10 to 12. I mean,
I mean, 10 to 12, yeah, I'll take him, but I'm not prioritizing. If he's there, I'll take him. I'm not going to be like, "Oh, I got to take him in the 7th, 8th round or I got to take him in the
no.
9th, 10th round." Like I have to have this guy on my roster. No, I mean I'll have him there as my wide receiver four or wide receiver five.
Right. But I'm just saying, like, philosophically, the way that, like, it's not like we're saying, oh, we're so excited for this. He's going to be. What we mean is, would we enjoy taking him over other guys in that area because we think he's going to, that's the point. It's not, I'm not saying I feel so good about him be starting him every single week,
Well,
but
let's put it this way. I would take Christian Kirk, who is ranked lower than him, over Stephon Diggs.
well, that might be a bridge.
I would
That might be
take
a bridge
I
too
would
far.
take Marquise Brown over Stephon Diggs. I would
Okay.
take Adam Thielen over Stephon Diggs.
I, okay.
I actually also, and this is going to be a controversy right here. I potentially might take DeAndre Hopkins over Stephon Diggs.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I mean, we'll get into more late round guys in a few episodes, but I mean, you really don't feel that good about this. That's
No,
all right. Okay. All right, let's move on to the last thing other than some
he
final
is
notes.
what he is to me is Deontay Johnson. Let's move
Okay.
on.
All right. So I want to just talk about the Bengals real quick, and I have a feeling this could turn into a preach fest, but let me just mention. So T. Higgins was franchise tagged earlier in the year. He has since been signed to a massive contract. His bestest friend in the whole wide world, Joe Burrow, has convinced the Bengals to sink their entire budget into three players. Now, I forget the status, something like more than 33% of their entire cap is on three players. Right. So the great. Good for them. This is going to be great for fantasy. I mean, Burrow's going to be fine because they're not going to have any defense. God knows what they're going to do with their offensive line. You know that he's going to be throwing to two people. Great. Good for them. Congratulations. Oh, everybody could get paid. This is my problem. And without this, I won't spend too long being a preach fest. Whether I don't care if anybody wants to call it communism, whether anybody cares or not, there is a set amount of money in a salary cap that has to get spread amongst all the players.
Like communism.
I'm just saying that it's like, oh, they players earn their money and they should go get great. In the context of the team, it's literally less money for other players. So let me just bring up a person that I don't like in general as a player. Okay. Tom Brady. I'll give him credit for one thing. He got a lot of wins in because he figured out if I take less money, they can appropriate more of that money towards other pieces, having a better
Smart.
defense, offensive. Very smart. Doesn't make him a better quarterback, but it makes him a better winner because they were able to win more games because they were a better team. I
And
don't.
I will say this. I will say this. To your point
Oh,
with that, though, in the record books, what do they look at? Victories, wins, championships.
okay.
He is
Certainly.
noted as the greatest
Okay.
quarterback of all time because of his
Yeah.
victories, his championships, and him
That's
being a massive competitor.
yeah. All right. Moving past Tom
But
Brady,
but but
my
but
point
let's
is
just also put it this way. Let me just say one more thing about Tom Brady. Eli Manning is your daddy.
all right. Moving past that, the point remains though that this is asinine, and Joe Burrow is going to be basically be the architect of his own demise from an NFL perspective. He Bengals. I've heard this too. Bengals fans complaining about how much pressure Joe Burrow gets under. This doesn't help. None of
Doesn't.
this. None of this helps. This is. I
Hey,
don't
you
understand
know
why
what?
more players can't do this.
You make your bed, you sleep in it, right? They invested a lot of money, 30, like you said, 33% of their roster, their money, their cap space on three players. Three are their best players offensively best players. The problem is they're losing one of their stud defensive guys to retirement. They're losing another guy that wants to be shipped off the team. This is going to be a great fantasy relevant team, when it comes down to
They're going to have to put up 40
but
points a
here's
game.
and
I
I
mean,
said this a couple weeks ago. My big issue with this move is the more you are on the field, the more opportunity you have to get hurt. Joe Burrow taking 70 to 80 hits a year is going to get injured. And then
right.
who's throwing those guys the ball?
Right. But
Jameis
again,
Winston.
what I'm saying is I'm blaming Joe Burrow for that now, preemptively. Like it's
Hey,
his
you know
own
what? It just
fault.
is what it is. I mean, people want to get paid. I get it. But I also understand the concept of distributing funds to make a better team, make your team better. I mean, people, there's always ways to restructure your contracts. I mean, Joe Burrow can restructure his contract, right?
But
Like
he didn't.
he didn't, but he can still. Not
Like
saying it's
if he
going to
wanted
happen.
T
I
Higgins, if
mean,
he
the
wanted
guy's
T
buying
Higgins to get paid
Batmobiles
so
left and right.
much, I'm just
What?
saying if he wanted T Higgins, for example, to get paid so much, he could have just gave him 20% of his contract. I'm just saying, like I have no
I
credit to
know
be
we're
given
gonna.
here.
I know,
Like
and here's the thing: we're gonna get killed in the comments with this stuff. Especially when we make our shorts and we drop this little
you know,
tidbit here. But I will say, I mean, I understand that what you're saying, make the team better. I understand you're only a football player once for a short period of time, so you got to make your money. There are a lot of ways to make your money in the NFL based on endorsements, based on advertisement, all of that.
and you'll get more of that
Nowadays, you
if
can
you
make an
win more.
NIL deal before you even become a professional player. So you're already a millionaire before you even jump into the league. But I will say this, you know, they're not going to be a good team next year. Obviously, the first player we're going to really go off of is Jamar Chase because of the relevance of what happened last year going into this year. There is no way he is the clear-cut number one draft. It's really between him and Barkley, straight up. And you're not making a bad decision taking either one of those guys.
No, and I'll get off the pedestal. We can end the topic. I'll just and it's a good parlay into that. I'll just close by saying like again, we're talking fantasy, and it's going to result in some serious fantasy because they're going to have to put up 40 points a game to compete, and they're going to go 9-8 like they did last year,
T.
and
Higgins is going to have a phenomenal year
they're
too.
going to again. T. Higgins might turn into again my least favorite fantasy football player of all time because he's going to be great for the 4 games that he plays in.
He could
But
finish, and I
I mean,
honestly think he's going to finish as a wide receiver one next year, a back end
he
wide
just
receiver one.
he just might. All right, let's you ready to jump? Any other news you want to mention? Or you want to parlay into wide receivers here?
No, I mean, all coaching situations have been established. I mean, Mecole Hardman is the number one wide receiver in
No.
Green Bay. And yeah,
I'm gonna
let's move
ignore
on.
that and move. move it. All right, so wide receivers. We'll be covering early. This is pre-NFL draft wide receivers ADP. The ADP that we're going off of right now is best ball. That's the only drafts going through right now, but it gives you an idea of where people see as compared to people. To some degree, explosive players are valued a bit higher than a bit more consistent players, but we'll make notes of that as we go through them. This will be a good gauge to see how things are rolling. But number one is not likely to change. So number one here is Jamar Chase, as mentioned.
Yeah.
We don't even have to spend a lot of time on this. You just heard me rant and rave about the Bengals. They're going to have to put up 40 points a game to win. He just got paid a horrendous amount of money. Burrow got paid amount of money. Him, T. Higgins, and Chase are all best friends, and they all could all run off together in their Brinks truck while the rest of their team burns. Great. Jamar Chase is going to be number one. I have no arguments there. Nothing. Now I will say it's an interesting point you bring up about him versus running backs. I think if I'm in a full PPR, I'm perfectly okay taking Chase, but my own personal strategy is I would not like to begin a draft with a wide
No,
receiver and a
yeah,
half
no,
PPR maybe, but
I agree. I agree. But like I said, a couple minutes ago, you're not making a bad decision if you
no.
go Saquon or you go Chase number one overall. I mean, if you got the number one, at this point, you pretty much just want to be sitting with the number two, because you want somebody to make that decision for you, and then you just settle and you move on.
Right. Right. And that's an interesting strategy too, like you mentioned, like uh
Or
tiers
if
if you want to call it like that's
or
like because that way you get the same value in your mind for a
honestly,
pick less, they
I
get a
will,
faster on the back
yeah,
end.
and then honestly, I mean, looking at this year, I mean, you got five solid picks that are could be number one overall picks, pretty much, or potentially four, right? You got Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Saquon Barkley, um, Gibbs, and you also got Bijan going into next year. And you really anybody, I mean, you could feel comfortable starting your roster with any of those players and then basically branch off from there. I don't see there being a problem, especially with you know, I think Justin Jefferson is quarterback proof, to be honest. So,
Sure.
yeah, I mean,
I think well, we could just let's just talk about him. Let's just jump ahead. So wide
yeah,
receiver two is Justin Jefferson. Um, Not only do I agree with you about him being quarterback, I mean we've seen it. It's not just Kirk, Mullins, Dobbs, etc. I think JJ McCarthy is about to perform better than Darnold did. Um, I think
it's going to be a rocky start.
I think the team is better. Oh, we should have mentioned in the news the Vikings picked up Jordan Mason from
Yeah, which was insane.
for the 49ers, which I think is great for their team. He
Well,
was
it's great for
great.
their team, but I just still don't understand like the 49ers sign and trade. It
They
didn't
did
make any
they did
sense.
they didn't exactly. They left Jordan Mason with a second round tender. I know that's a bit complicated inside baseball
Yeah.
stuff, but it's anyway. So they get Jordan Mason. They did a lot of work on their. They did more work on their defense, which was already good. They got a good offensive line. They got a great weapon. I really do. I have faith in JJ McCarthy for this year, and so therefore you should have faith in Justin Jefferson if the whole offense is going and Kevin O'Connell, etc. Um, I think that I would not be taking Jefferson over Chase. I mean, I know you mentioned like people, that you would be okay taking number one. I don't see the argument how you could take Jefferson over Chase, considering like we just described the Bengals situation.
Yeah.
Um, but I would be perfectly happy with him as the second wide receiver coming off the board. Whether you want to slot him with other running backs is a different thing. I do you think? I mean, we'll get into some other guys. Is there any wide receivers here that you would maybe the next two or three that you would consider over Jefferson, or do you think it's clear Chase one, clear Jefferson two?
I think it's clear Chase one, clear Jefferson two. But and then the next guy, it's an obvious CD Lamb that we'll be talking about. But
Because I don't think he's an obvious three. That's why I'm bringing
I
him.
think he's an obvious three.
All right, well let's jump into him. So yeah, number three is CeeDee Lamb, who quietly with Cooper Rush had a very good year last year. I think he was the
Yeah.
wide receiver five or
And before
something.
that, he was he had, I
He was the
mean,
wide
if you
receiver
look at
one.
the 2023, 2024 season, 2024, 2025 season, I mean, with Dak, he had obviously the greatest connection of all time, 2023 to 2024, and then going into the 2024, there was obviously the injury with Dak,
Sure.
pretty much, and then but he did have a good connection at the beginning of the year. So, and then it kind of faded a little bit and then Cooper Rush had a nice, finishing to the end of the year. So, but it was the hyper target element. And again, like that team was forced to throw the ball because they were losing.
Sure.
So, not saying and also, I mean, if you look at it from a defensive also perspective going into this year, Dallas did lose some of their defensive players. And
Right.
just like, DeMarcus Lawrence, um, who went to Seattle. Um, but yeah, honestly, I think it's a easy setup. CD is number three. There
It
is no
is.
questions about it. But then after that, I really think that
I
it can scramble a little bit.
I think that all right. Let's jump for the sake of argument. So coming in at number four is Puka. Um, let's do a quick mention. So coming in at number four is Puka. Coming in at number five is Malik Neighbors, and coming in at number six is Amon Ra. Okay, I'll wait to see how ADP and other things happen. And like we just mentioned earlier in the news, Russ and Jameis are now in New York. Um, if I, maybe not Malik Neighbors, but Puka and Amon Ra, I think I am more comfortable taking them than CeeDee Lamb. I
Nah,
really do. I really do. Amon Ra is about as consistent as you could get. Uh, Game situation, whatever, he's going to be amazing. And Puka, look, I don't have the stat in front of me, but the games that he played, points per game, wasn't he the wide receiver two or something last year? He was
I think so.
unbelievable in the games he played. I get it, he was injured or whatever. And now think of this now. So now superstar or whatever, aging superstar Cooper Kupp is left. They bring in Devontae Adams, who is He was still very good, but he's not as good as he was 4 or 5 years ago. Whatever. Puka's the guy there. He's going to be the guy. Devontae does nothing other than I think improve the offense and help take attention away from Puka.
I
Doesn't
think it's
none of these arguments hit you? None of them.
no. I think honestly, I think Devontae is going to take shares away from Puka.
Take shares away, not improve the
No,
situation.
no, I think he's going to take shares away. I mean, obviously Puka has his rushing elements and his little screen elements, but I really think that um, they signed Devontae Adams to take shares away and to preserve Puka. You can't play like that. You can't play like Wes Welker was the last guy, or previous to um, Cooper Kupp. Wes Welker was like that kind of wide receiver-esque play early on, right? So, and his career was great, but his career was only short-term tenured. It was like a 6 year of great wide receiver play. Outside of that, when he was on Miami, it was really rough, and then he got to his way to the Patriots, and then he played with Peyton Manning in that tremendous offense. Um, I think that they need to slow their roll a little bit with Puka, and it's obviously going to hurt his end of season numbers. Personally, I believe Malik Neighbors is the number four to come off the board, and then it's Amon Ra, and then Nico, and then after that is Puka.
Well, that might be an interesting question for you. So, whatever you think the ADP will be, do you think that's how it should be? Is
Yes,
that this is how so the order that you've got, you're comfortable with that as this is your order.
going Malik Neighbors, Amon Ra,
So you like
Collins,
the
Puka.
so yeah, after Chase Jefferson and Lamb, or order those guys.
All right. I'll order one through. I'll order one through
One to
seven.
six.
I'll do one through seven. You got
Okay.
Chase, Jefferson, Lamb, Neighbors,
Really?
Amon Ra, Nico Collins, and then Puka.
Really? You've got Nico over Puka then.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, let's talk Nico. By the way, did you have any thoughts on Amon Ra? I mean, again, as consistent and reliable as you could get, and this is best ball, so he's a little
Yeah.
bit, you know,
So Amon Ra again, he is consistent. He's reliable. He's going to have his hyper targeted weeks, but he's all his lowest week, in receptions is probably going to be anywhere from 3 to 4 receptions. He's going to command targets, so he's going to force those targets. He's going to catch pretty much every single ball that goes to him. Um, but again, he has a very high profile running game as well too. So I really think that takes away from him as well. He
that's
can,
true. And Ben Johnson left.
yeah,
We don't
and you
yet to
just don't
see how
know.
much that affects
Yeah,
it.
and I don't think that they're going to shy away from their studs. That's not the thing. I think that I think Amon Ra is not a top three candidate to be drafted. If you do, you're
Mm.
overdrafting a player. You should really, the value is he's a middle, maybe late, because there are some really good running backs this year that should be going early. I think he's like an 8, 9, 10 drafted player in the first round. Um,
Well, maybe he
and
won't end
and
up
you're
on a.
getting, and again, I think anybody you draft in the first round this year is a great solid piece. Now you have tremendous
Yeah,
solid pieces, but you have kind of like for sure people that are going to finish off within that number one realm
sure. And
if
he's definitely going to
if they
finish
stay
there.
healthy.
Right. And maybe the risk rating on Amon Ra is lower than, let's say, uh, Nico, which we could get. Yeah, let's get into that now. So Nico, ADP is a wide receiver seven, who Tommy has a bit higher than that. So Tommy's pretty high on Nico. I can tell you that I'm not as high on Nico as
That's
you are.
fine. That's fine.
Um, here
I
here,
mean,
he-
without having Tank Dell, without having um you know what's his name? We were just talking about him, Stephon
Stephon
Diggs.
Diggs,
Um, with having a Christian Kirk over there and our favorite tight end, Mr.
Dalton Schultz.
Dalton Schultz. Um, I think it's a nice setup for him to continue to do what he did. I mean, he was basically the number one wide receiver until he got hurt.
Yeah, let me tell you something right now. I think he's not going to be on any of my teams because I could tell you a lot of these guys that are going after him, I think I would take over him. Let me give you my reasons. Um, I
You take
think
Brian Thomas Jr. over him?
yes, I would.
Eee. I don't know.
Yes.
He's gonna have
And
his sophomore slumps. I'm telling you right now.
I think Jacksonville in general is going to be awful. But here's my logic on Nico. Um, I think th Houston recognized that what they did last year, they need a change. So they got rid of Slowick, and it was a hyper targeting Nico every second of every day, and they recognize that that's not their offense in general is not sustainable. On top of the fact of they lost Tunsil, and they made no moves with offensive. They're not in a position to be drafting a great offensive lineman either where they're at. Um, I don't know. The only benefit that I see in general for the Texans is that they're in a bad division. So if Jacksonville's bad and Tennessee is bad, I mean they'll walk away with the division again. But they cannot just get away with targeting Nico on every single play when they have an offensive line who's going to be awful. I don't know. I, some of the other options here, I definitely would take. Like I mean, like we just mentioned, Brian Thomas. Um, Brian Thomas made it work with Mac Jones. He made it definitely, and it was still good with Trevor Lawrence, but it ended up getting a little bit better with Mac Jones. Let's pretend my hatred of Liam Cohen is a little bit overblown. I still think that he's probably a good offensive mind. He was good with the Bucks. Um, I have no reason to think that Brian Thomas, by the way, who looked amazing. I just think that like how put it this way, you put Nico ahead of Puka, right?
Mhm.
On like the way you think about it. How
Puka
good do you
is the number seven for me.
how good do you think the Texans are actually going to be, or do you think that's irrelevant to the Nico question?
I think it's irrelevant.
You think that's irrelevant? Do you think they're
Yeah.
going to target him as much as they did last year?
I think he's going to put up the numbers that he got last year. He's going to have his number one weeks too.
Okay, okay. I don't know. It's they recognize that what they did last year was wrong. All right,
Yeah.
then
So
yeah,
maybe they go back to year one with Stroud. Throw
right.
that ball.
Throw the ball, but spread it around. I mean,
Yeah, but Nico Collins started popping off late in the year.
a little bit. All right. Well, maybe we have a difference of opinion there. So, all right. So yeah, like we mentioned, so coming in number eight, we talked about Brian Thomas. By the way, do you agree or disagree that you think that Jacksonville is going to be awful next year?
I mean, I don't want to talk about Jacksonville right now.
All right. Coming in at number nine is Drake London. I think this is right about the right spot for him. Lower wide receiver one. He was uh, good, not crushing it, but good with Kirk, and he was also good, not completely crushing it with oh my gosh, who's the
Michael Penix,
Michael Penix, right?
Mr.
Mike
Nuclear.
Mr. Nuclear, and he's like yeah. For anyone who doesn't know why we say that,
Well, better
Tommy
catch up and watch the videos.
Tommy picked him as a if it was like the semifinals, like if you could go ahead, you might turn into
Nuclear.
you might go nuclear. But Drake London, I mean, Michael Penix is likely to take a step up next year. He only had a little bit of time. Presumably, he's going to be getting a chance to get better. That's only good things for Drake London. I have a lot of faith in Raheem Morris. I like him as a coach. I think the offense is going to get better. Everybody who knows, been listening, knows that I'm really high on Bijan because I think of Atlanta's going to be really, really good next year. Um, so like we just mentioned, I'd consider Drake London over Nico Collins, for example. But you again, I know you forget the Nico thing. How do you feel about Drake London?
I like him. I would favor a couple other players over him that are in his top 12 category. Honestly, I see him more so. I see him over Brian Thomas, to be honest. I think honestly, I would move Brian Thomas to number 12 and put Drake at number 11,
Okay.
and favor some of these other players prior to those guys.
Okay. Um, Yeah, I mean, and by the way, to your point from a little bit earlier, you mentioned that, a lot of these guys, like they're up there because they're going to be solid wide receiver ones. You're just kind of judging different risk things. You're looking for different types of upside. And again, this is best ball, so to some degree, explosiveness, like we said, is valued a bit more.
Yeah.
So coming in at number 10 is AJ Brown, which maybe that's one of the guys you might take over Drake London. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's what
I
you
mean,
thought.
like I said, I would actually take all three of the next guys that we're going to discuss over Drake London, and Brian Thomas would be the final of the 12.
Okay. Um, I My, I'm actually high on. I know we mentioned in the quarterback, one of the other episodes that we were talking about Jalen Hurts. I'm actually pretty high on AJ Brown, and we talked about this when we talked about Barkley. Like he's not. I know Tommy disagrees with me. I know you disagree, but he's not going to get 2,000 yards again this year.
Mhm.
It's not going to happen. Um, doesn't mean that he won't finish as the running back one. I just think that there's going to be a bit more of a concerted effort to throw the ball a little bit more. They got to mix things up. They got to, make a little bit of moves. My only weird thing is that who was the offensive coordinator? Kellen Moore. He
Mhm.
left. That never is the best thing for a good passing game. That being said, um, AJ Brown is the whiniest player in the NFL by far.
No, no, he's
He's
not.
not.
No,
Who's whinier than him?
DK Metcalf.
You think Metcalf is whinier than Brown?
Yeah.
Okay.
Brown minds his own business. He reads his books.
You don't think that's obnoxious?
Uh, at least he's not sitting in the blue medical tent complaining about his pinky toe.
Having an injury or accentuating an injury is not the same as, oh, I'm going to read a book on the sideline and, you know,
Maybe he's trying to make investments into something else,
all right.
like, outs
Yeah, right. I think it's like falling asleep.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
realizing that you got a 42 million dollar running back out there, taking, basically taking all the team by the horns.
All right. All right, let's move on at the best of that disagreement. So coming in at number 11, who I think Tommy and me both have good feelings about this year. It's Ladidi McConkey, Lad
Yeah,
McConkey.
buddy.
So there
He's my
is
number eight.
nothing that the Chargers could do in terms of bringing in wide receivers, drafting wide receivers that could make me think less of him. Nothing. In
Yep.
fact, maybe they'll even think better because it'll make more opportunities for him. That's how talented. He was just so talented. He was always open.
Yeah.
He looked great. He has to learn how to take hits better. Please, like start doing the Tyler Lockett fall down thing. But like he just was great. Um, and there's also no reason for us to think that uh, Jim Harbaugh, or sorry, Jim Harbaugh, is not going to pull on the reins anymore with Justin Herbert. I mean, once he started letting him go, it was going. So I feel very, very good about that. There's no reason not to.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. And now that Will Disley's gone, there won't be any more fake competition. Yeah. I just had to do a Will Disley mention. Um, so coming in at number 12 is I this one's I don't know how it's here. I get why for best ball, but like I can't see this holding, and we don't even know if he's going to play. Coming in at number 12 is Tyreek Hill. First of all, do we have any other news? His latest thing: he's in, he's out, he's in, he's out. Is he playing?
Oh yeah, he's back. He made up with the team, and he's all all kisses and hugs. He's making TikToks on the beach with his wife now, and
Sure.
he's back at it. He's Tyreek Hill.
What leads you to
Now,
believe he's going to do anything other than what happened last year?
he's the number one wide receiver for fantasy. Um,
in the past.
If you are able to and you will based on his ADP, you're most likely going to be able to draft him as your wide receiver too if you're you know if you're the back end potentially. I mean, honestly, I really think like he is going to be drafted like Cooper Cup was last year, like a Debo back to back with Cooper Cup, a potential element. I think he'll have a better year than Cooper Cup did last year, and there's really no surprise with it. It's just Tyreek Hill in a good situation, he does very well. Um, and I will say if there's any type of animosity during the middle of the season or anything really pops up, he will, they'll find him on another team, which he'll benefit from.
I, I mean, it's just it's weird to hear you say that because it's like, first of all, so much of this really revolves around Tua. We don't even know if he's going to make it through a season. We don't know if he's going to retire halfway through a season because of whatever the injury situation is. Um, Tyreek Hill played the entire year last year. And after Tua got back from that injury, it was a constant let's hurry up and get the ball out of our hands as quick as possible, dump off to Jonnu Smith. Quick little hitch to whatever, Tyreek Hill, a little bit. It's not like Tyreek Hill was awful last year, but he was not the number one wide receiver. You got Tyreek another year older, Tua in a protect at all costs things. I can't possibly see how this turns into a wide receiver one season for him. I mean, maybe he'll air it out a little bit the first three games, and then God forbid he gets knocked down once. Tua, like I just can't see it. I mean, but like you said, like you just based a lot of what you were said. Well, maybe he gets out and he goes to another team. You can't bank on that.
No, you can't bank on that, but you also have to take consideration of the situation that happened last year. I mean, you don't think that ownership has in their back pocket, hey, listen, if he basically um, you know, turns into what he did last year, there's no thought of, having some sort of like package put together where he just goes off and they basically the Dolphins just close shop.
Right.
So, I mean, honestly, I mean, investment wise, I think he is a good investment where he's being drafted and he could have tremendous upside. Um, so I don't see him as the number 12. I see him right now as the number 10 on my board, um, which has top five upside depending on which Tyreek Hill performs next year and what, Miami Dolphins really perform next year.
Okay. And obviously, like rankings and everything else is going to change significantly, or maybe not so significantly, but
I
we'll,
don't think it's going to change. I don't think it's really going to change as significantly in this top 12 as we get into the next week and moving forward. We start talking about some of these other players. I think, um, see, what's crazy is I really see the NFL as, it's obviously a statistical game now. So I don't really think you could go really wrong taking any of these players. You obviously have to favor some of these players over one another. Um, but going into like, 13 through 24 when we discuss that next week, which I would recommend tuning into because this is going to be a little bit more of a deep dive next week. There are some very, very worthy players that will put up weekly wide receiver one numbers, and you're going to get them at a tremendous value. Some big players on that board who've been providing and been producing for years in fantasy football, and you really can't go wrong. But you have to be smart with your drafts. That's why we're obviously, discussing this now so we can make sure that we articulate the best order of position for your draft.
yeah, and everything comes with an opportunity cost. So if you're in the first round or the first two rounds and you're gonna you're gonna make a move on a wide receiver, that is a running back that you could have taken,
Yep.
and the same happens vice versa. Um, you can only judge base things on, the tiers in which if you see guys similar, maybe you could, when you're on a turn, you could maybe get them on the way back, or
Yep.
if you'd rather uh, take like play the ADP game and wait until he comes back or whatever. You have to judge those things. I don't I don't here we probably can do that. I won't go to 12 because it's getting a little complicated and obviously we have so long, but I can give you my early top 10. Um, so I have Chase is number one, Jefferson is number two, and then I have basically in the same tier, Puka and St. Brown for all the reasons I outlined. I have Lamb at number five, Neighbors at number six, and then I have seven and eight interchangeable to me as London and Lad McConkey. And then I have as number nine, AJ Brown, and then Brian Thomas Jr. at number 10. Notably left off of there is Nico Collins. Again, I'm a bit low on Nico Collins for this year. And yeah. So Tommy, if you want to mention your top 10.
Yeah. I did actually make a little update, and there will be some changes that
Oh
through
yeah.
this season and the off season as we discussed. But my top 10 right now is Chase, Jefferson, Lamb, Neighbors, St. Brown, Nico Collins, Puka, Ladd, AJ, Hill, London, and Scary Terry makes his way into there, which we'll talk about next week.
Yeah, we'll talk about that next week. I'm really excited for next week too, because a lot of those guys are I see as a real opportunity to knock on the wide receiver one door. So
That's what I'm saying. There's
yeah,
so many worthy there's so many worthy players that can really, week in, week out, put up number one wide receiver numbers, and you could get them in the second round, or you could get them as your second wide receiver too. I mean, again, um, NFL is real. The NFL is turning more into a statistical, fantasy relevant game. Unfortunately, while we watch the game, sometimes it's not as fun to see all these flags being thrown. But statistically, when we watch this and we see our fantasy football numbers grow, um, it really is a fun way to, maximize. When we get deeper down, when we're doing like, you know, um, mock drafts and we're doing stuff like that and we're getting into the fifth, sixth, seventh round, those are the areas where that's what makes you win your league. Those are the areas that really help you win your league.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Before we close out, just this is right on topic for the wide receivers here. So I know you see Barkley as the clear cut number one, and I know you see Chase as the clear cut wide receiver one. You're the number three overall pick. Who are you taking right now?
I'm taking a running back.
So
It's whatever running
Bijan or
back is
Gibbs,
there. Bijan Gibbs or Barkley,
full
depending on
PPR.
yeah.
You would take them over Jefferson, full PPR at position three.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Very interesting. Very interesting. I would have to think about it. In full
That's cool.
PPR, I would think about that.
That's fine. You could lose
Um,
again.
yeah, we'll see. All right. Any closing thoughts, sir?
No, outside of, obviously we appreciate everybody that takes the time to tune in, watch the video, whether you zoom through it, watch some of the things that really catch your eye. We do obviously drop some shorts on TikTok. Sometimes we don't drop all the shorts on YouTube, but we do drop all those shorts. We obviously appreciate those of you who share, subscribe, and make your comments. If you have any questions or if you want to drop any content or want us to talk about any content, drop it down and we'll obviously discuss it as the weeks go on, and maybe we'll talk about some of these topics that you want us to talk about. So,
Cool. All right, everybody. Thank you.
all right. Have a good night.